please.
We're up. Good.
Yeah. Mark looked like he's still looking like his hadn't come up yet.
We're up.
All right, good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, October 26th, 2021. It's 10 a.m. We're here to conduct the regular session of the Hunt County Commissioners Court. At this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask Commissioner Martin to lead us in prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flags.
Shall we bow? Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to come here and take care of the business of Hunt County. As we do so, may we use good judgment. Will you give us wisdom? Will you give us patience in order to work with each other and what decisions are made be righteous? We ask you to continue protecting this great country that we live in. We pray for the healthcare workers, our veterans, our military. In Christ's name, we ask all these things. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank y'all. We have Commissioner Hutchins, Strait, Martin, and Harrison present. I'm Judge Stovall presiding over the meeting. Commissioners, you have the minutes from the October 12th regular session. Entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This time we'll take public testimony. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and should conduct themselves in a civil manner. The Commissioners Court cannot take action on items not listed on the agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Concerns will be addressed by county staff. They may be placed on a future agenda or addressed by some other course of response. Do we have any, Becky, do we have any sheets? Jessica, gather the sheets up. I think,
Anybody want to speak?
is there any there filled out too? Are those all blank? Okay. I'd also like to announce that anyone watching online can go to huntcounty.net and to the comments banner and place a comment there to be read to the court, or you can put a phone number there and we'll call you back at an appropriate time. John Kelso.
John Kelso, 6005 Horn Drive, Greenville, Texas, 75402. Thank you, Judge Stovall, Commissioners, for this opportunity. As you probably know, every 2 years, there's an election of the Hunt County Appraisal District Board of Trustees. This is a year you'll be doing that. It's a 7-member board, and all the members are elected by the taxing entities in the county, the city governments, the school districts, and you guys. I don't know if you know, you guys probably know, there's 7,000 total votes. You guys get, I don't know, the bulk of the votes. I think you have around 1,700, over 1,700 votes. And you can split those up any way you want. You can divide them by 7, go with 7 people. You can put them all on one person. You can give them to 3 different people. You can do it however you want. The election has to take place before December, so I assume sometime in the near future.
Sounds like it may be okay now.
Okay, so my name will be on the ballot. I don't know how many names are on the ballot, probably 8, I'm guessing, but I don't know. But my name will be, and I'm here today to solicit your vote for as many of your votes as you would like to give me. I'd like to see 1,000. If you give me 1,000, that's guaranteed I'm on the board, right? But you can split them up however you want. It's probably not fair for me to come down here and ask for your votes if I didn't tell you why I'm running. I would just like to make sure that the appraisals for all the property in the county are as fair as possible. And I think one of the ways to ensure that they're fair is to make it easy as possible for the appraisers to do their job. I think another way to make sure they're fair is to make it as easy as possible for the homeowner to be involved in the process. Who knows better than the homeowner the condition of his property and what it's probably worth? So I would like to just make sure that we make it easy for homeowners to be involved in the process, the appraisal process, and make it easy for the appraisals to do their job, not have roadblocks in their way. So I see my time's up, so thank you for your time, and I just wish you'd give me consideration when the time comes for that vote. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you for your service. Anybody else like to speak? If not, we'll move on to old business. Action item 1, we're going to strike that one. Maintenance is going to continue to look for a different package and see if they can't get one a little cheaper, one that might suit their needs even better. Action item 2, the final plat of Kennedy Estates in Precinct 4. Brian, are we?
This was here last meeting. Put it on old business. There were some requirements by the drainage plan for spillway, and there needed to be a little bit more right-of-way that was cleared, some little bit of drainage work to make sure everything's going to drain properly. I went out yesterday. Right-of-way has been cleared on the north side, the one remaining spot. The pond spillway has been cut. I want to look at it a little bit better. It was still fairly fresh, but they have been out there working on it. It's all coming together, and it's coming together very quickly. These guys are ready to get this thing going. If it is approved today, once everything is absolutely finished, is when I would get the final plat out for you to sign. I have the final plat ready to go, but I'm waiting until everything is absolutely finished on the project before I put it out for signatures for you. So they're definitely making headway on it, though.
Okay. And to remind you, Commissioners, our new rules say that we can approve the final plat, but it doesn't get recorded until such time all engineering required things are completed and accepted by the county. So we can approve it today with no exceptions and just not record it until we get the inspections made on the improvements.
We are going to also record the drainage plan with the plat so that anyone who pulls that plat is on notice of the drainage plan, certain lot details for drainage around houses and anything like that. So it'll be very publicly available.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Any questions? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action item number 3, the final plat of Castillo Edition in Precinct 4.
This one is on a dirt road. There's some discussion I've had with the foreman and with Commissioner Harrison, looking at trying to widen the road as it needs to be widened before it's upgraded. There's no sense in upgrading this thing and then coming back later on and trying to widen it. We're going to have a meeting with the developer and also with the neighbor to the north who actually owns the property between this proposed plat and the next paved road. So there's some additional dirt road that's going to have to be upgraded in order to even access this property. So we've got a little bit of discussion still on getting everything done and getting some escrow numbers for upgrade amounts and all. So
So you just need to strike this and bring it back when it's ready?
probably need to bring it back when it's ready.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll
Thank you.
strike 1 and 3 under old business. All right, Commissioner, you got the consent calendar in front of you. To entertain a motion for approval of the consent calendar.
So moved.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Action item number 1, Hunt Regional Hospital requesting county's American Rescue Plan funding. Rich Carter, you might introduce your soon-to-be replacement.
I will do that. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to come once again in front of the commission and share with you some news from the hospital and have some information to distribute. And I do want to acknowledge the presence of Lee Bowles, who is sitting here in the center with me. He's my successor as my retirement date looms very closely. So we are glad to have him on board at the hospital district, and he'll be a great reference for you going forward. Also next to him is Reese Hurley, who is our chief nursing officer and who was here the last time. So if you have questions that are a little too specific or clinical for me, then Lee can help out in the financial world, and Reese can help out in the nursing clinical world. So feel free to ask questions. I do have a little bit of information to share with you. Does somebody want to distribute this? So as y'all know, the American Rescue Act was enacted a while back, and the state has distributed some of those funds to the counties, and the purpose of those funds are to offset some of COVID expenses and things like COVID exams or vaccines, and then also in taking care of the COVID patients. So what I've summarized for you, what really Lee has probably summarized for you, is a little bit of data about the state of COVIDness in Hunt County at our hospital for the past 3 months. This is August and September data. So in August and September, we've had 361 inpatient admissions. So 361 patients represent about 3,100 patient days, which is an average length of stay of about 8.8, which is quite a bit greater than the average. Our average length of stay pre-COVID is about 4.0, so you can see these patients are staying a lot longer, and that's very, very critical. Patient charges, what do we charge them? About $23,356,000. What's it cost for us to care for these patients? About $8,400,000. And those costs include all the direct patient care expenses, labor premiums that we're having to pay for all these agency staff that we have to hire, which are very, very expensive, incremental drugs, and this excludes any of the state labor, because the state has been very generous through some of the money that they've received from Washington. They've been able to provide a labor force that they did not charge the facilities. So this excludes all of them. So payments received to date, about $3.5 million. Of our expenses were $8.4. We've received about $3.5 million. We expect to receive another $2 million, give or take. And then we've received $1 million from you guys about 6 weeks ago or so. And so that comes to a total of about $6.5 million, actually $6,574,000, which represents a loss on these patients in August and September of $1,833,000 and how we cared for them. And one might ask, well, how do we lose that much money? It really boils back down to that length of stay. So when the length of stay increases from 4 days to 8.8, that's a huge difference. And that just goes back to the complexity of the COVID patient. A little bit other data to share with you. Medicare does pay us a 20% premium to take care of COVID patients. That is factored into these payments. So pre-COVID, we received about an average of $12,000 per COVID type of care. Pre-COVID, now it's $15,004, but it still, as you can see, does not come close to paying for the cost of those patients. Getting into some of the agency fees real quickly and briefly. Our contract labor expenses for August and September was about $1.6 million. Most of that being in September. And our actual expenses in October have been about $400,000 to date. But we also have about $700,000 that we've not yet received. So about $1.1 million in October of agency fees for nursing and respiratory therapy. So that we do expect that to continue into November, but through the month of October, we will have spent or expect to spend about $2,764,000 in additional fees, and I've got. So what I'm sharing with you is the actual invoices as well as our accrued expectation of $700,000. So that is a material cost to the hospital district, and we've been, we were very fortunate the last 2 years. The CARES Act, Washington passed a CARES Act, which was very generous to healthcare providers and really kept most, if not all, healthcare providers from filing bankruptcy because of COVID, and now the Rescue Act is really its replacement. The CARES Act ended in June, and so we are back to a normal state of economic affairs since June, with the exception of the Rescue Act, and hopefully that can carry us forward into the future. We just passed our budget, and our budget is very minor, very small budget. It has a positive number, a very, very small number, much less than 1% margin rate, which is tough. So so the Rescue Act is important to us. Some other data I'll share with you, just as of today. Our COVID numbers are declining. As of today, we have 13 COVID patients, 4 in the ICU, 3 on vents, and 1 is unvaccinated. So we had a high of about 2 months ago or 6 weeks ago of 75 COVID patients, and that has declined quite a bit. Interestingly enough, our non-COVID population census has increased dramatically. So we're still trying to figure out why that has happened, but it has increased dramatically. We have 17 patients in the ICU. We have no patients holding in the ER right now. We still have 3 in our overflow telemetry unit, which is the surgical outpatient surgery suites. We have 144 patients in the hospital total, which 120 of those are the adult non-COVID, which our typical census is 90, give or take. So you can see it's increased quite a bit. A couple of other bits of information. Our average charge per admission, if you did the math, you could figure out our average charge per admission is about $64,000 for a COVID patient. The average Texas charge for complex patients is $378,000. The average Texas charge for non-complex patients is $63,600. So of our 361, we've had some complex patients, but that is the minority, not the majority. Another interesting tidbit of information, our region, as of today, is their inpatient bed capacity is 88%, so we're 88% full, region-wide, which is 16 counties, Reese? 13? 16 counties. Hunt, we're 100%. We're absolutely full. We don't have any. We have no beds open right now. In the region, it's 9.2% of the patients are COVID patients in the region, and the governor has used the 15% as the rate where if you exceed 15%, then it's really bad. So we are underneath that ceiling of 15% in our region. But in Hunt County, we have not decreased as much as the other region has for whatever reason. And so that's a little bit about our data. Open it up for questions. We are here to request that y'all consider using the Rescue Act funding to provide or to fulfill this estimated loss of our COVID patients. That's $1.8 million. And that about equals what's been unpaid on those agency staff through the end of October. So that they pretty much run hand in hand. And so that's what we are here to request your consideration of. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask. Reese or Lee, is there anything else that you'd like to add to that summary? All right. Okay, they are here to answer the questions I get baffled by, so
Commissioners, you got any
please feel
questions?
free.
I'll make a comment. First of all, we appreciate everything all the staff has done at the hospital, doctors and nurses, as well as the admit people. And I know it's been a rough 18 months or 20 months, whatever
It's been a very harsh period of time for our hospital
and for all of us,
staff.
too.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Not quite as bad as y'all, maybe,
Yes.
but it's been tough on everybody. But we do appreciate everything you've done. And Commissioners, since we have our consultant here today, BKD, about spending the ARP money, I would like to defer any decision until after we have a discussion with them and totally evaluate our position. We have a finite amount of money. And
Yes, sir.
and since we've already contributed $1 million to y'all, I'd like to make sure we're still covering everybody else as best we can, so.
Absolutely understand and agree with that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
We just want to make our position known and so that y'all can give it consideration.
And
Yes,
absolutely,
so-
we'll do it.
You're asking, requesting 1.8 million.
1.8 million is the request for today, yes, sir. And that will basically bring us to a break even with the COVID patients.
Okay, any other questions?
And that's through the end of October. So we'll still have some in November, but it is declining.
Well, Rich, I wish you well on your retirement and hope you have a great, wonderful rest of your time on Earth. And Lee, good luck. Glad
Thank
to
you very
have you on
much.
board.
Well, the hospital's a great place to work, and I'm just proud that it's going to be in great hands.
I think
Hey,
you're leaving it
Rich.
in good hands. That's awesome.
Rich,
Thank y'all.
Rich,
Yes,
real
sir.
quick, while you're
Yes,
here, do you want to say anything about the Commerce Hospital reopening on the 28th?
I would love to. So I'll give you a state of affairs, but I won't spend that much time. But we had to take that staff and bring it over to Greenville. When was that? The end of August, I think, or mid-August, and just to make sure that we had enough staff to take care of our inpatient COVID population. And our ICU, I may have mentioned previously, our ICU is 16-bed ICU. We've had up to 32 patients in that ICU. So one room became two patients in a room. But we have seen the declines enough where we felt like the trend was such a positive rate that we could reopen Commerce. So we are planning to reopen Commerce at 7 a.m. on October 28th, which is Thursday. And so we will be back to the pre-decision of closing it status, and the nursing staff and the physician staff and all the other staff are prepared, and all the supplies and equipment is ready to go. So we're excited about that, and we look forward to serving the entire county, Commerce area, the Quinlan area, and of course the Greenville area, and then even the other county areas that we serve in as best way we can. So
Yeah.
we're proud of the work we do. We appreciate it. Yes, sir.
I have one.
Turn your mic on, Philip.
He's not causing the problem, is he?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. Listen, I'd like to thank y'all. I know that there for a while, y'all were having a lot of healthcare workers that were getting COVID themselves, and
Yes,
that's
sir.
why you had to go out. I understand that it has declined, but what about the healthcare workers? Are you still having, is
Yeah,
that going
it's-
down also?
It's much better. As of today, we have 6 people out on COVID. We had up to, Reese, do you remember?
8.
40 or 50 out at one time. Our total workforce is about 1,400. That's full-time and part-time. And So it's six is not a large number, but six nurses is still important, yeah.
Well, we appreciate them, and we pray for them.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Rich.
All right, thank you all
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
I'm going to skip down to number 4. We got one of our prosecutors here, get him back to work. The request for $300 donation to the Children's Advocacy Center out of the county attorney's misdemeanor bond forfeiture commissioner's account. Calvin, you want to come brief us on it right quick? Yes. Then you can go back and put people in jail.
Thanks, Judge. Good morning, Judge Stovall, Commissioners. Yeah, I'm Calvin Grogan, the County Attorney. I'm here because this is a new account that I asked the auditor to set up pursuant to Government Code Section 41005 that basically gave the authority, or the legal authority for the county attorney or the DA to start collecting commission on bond forfeitures. And so since April, we've had that account created. And I'm here really just to answer any questions you have. I'm asking today just for making a donation to a local 501c that is important in the line of work that we do, which is the Children's Advocacy Center. I provided all the commissioners a copy of the 2 AG opinions on this issue and the government code section I referenced a minute ago to answer any questions you have. But I believe, before I get any questions, that I'm well within my authority to ask your approval to use any non-taxpayer funded revenue that goes into this account for an expenditure to the CAC, like a donation like this.
Judge, I got tickled under the government code. It says that they can collect without, up to so much without asking the Commissioner's Court, to do it. But then when it got down to spending of it, it all came about with the Commissioner's Court deciding how it would be spent. And under a summary, it basically said the Commissioner's Court generally determines how such commissions may be used subject to any other restriction in its authority. I feel that Calvin has looked at a good needy women in need. That's very good, and I appreciate you thinking of them, and I would highly support
Child
that.
advocacy.
I do think of women in need, and I did go visit their shelter last week, but actually this is for Children Advocacy Center. We work with women in need as well, but my intent in this is to solely only ask to use it for the Children Advocacy Center. And I'll tell the commissioners why is because there is statutory authority for the district attorney to use asset forfeiture funds to specifically make donations to one 501c in the state, and that is the Children's Advocacy Center. So because of that basis, I feel like I'm on solid ground for asking for commissioner approval to use
Thank you all too.
funds.
Well, I think it's a worthy cause. I entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Calvin.
Thanks,
Okay,
Calvin.
thanks, I appreciate it.
May I ask this question? He was asking me yesterday if later in the future, if he had to, am I correct, would you have to come up here every time? And I was saying that you'd probably need to ask the judge or the attorney if we could put this actually not an action every time, but a consent calendar.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin. Yeah, Judge Stovall, I met with him briefly yesterday. I envision probably asking maybe twice a year. There's not much money in this account. I think there's like $800, $900. But so I can keep putting the bad guys in jail and not have to come over here to ask maybe in the future to have it, if I make a request to put on the consent calendar.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
That'll do it.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you, Calvin. All right, back up to action item 2, the quarterly report for the Audie Murphy American Cotton Museum. Susan? Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for letting me come and present our quarterly reports to you. For the last quarter, visitors to the museum came from 37 different states. And with this time, for the first time in quite some time, we actually had a few international visitors as well. So that's been really nice. We've started getting a little busy again. There was a total of 2,039 paid visitors to the museum, and a total of 2,239 people actually signed our guest book. Some of our group tours came from Top Kid Preschool, the Grace Baptist Church over in Quinlan, Altrusa, First Baptist Church in Hurst, and the Junior ROTC from the Faith and Family Academy over in Dallas. That was a great program for them. Our lunch break special speakers this quarter included John Armstrong, who spoke about the history of the Wesley United Methodist Church. And in August, Dr. Cherry Davis did a presentation on the planetarium over in Commerce. In July, the museum had its 13th annual summer camp program that is geared towards 6 to 10-year-olds. They saw demonstrations, sang songs, and made arts and crafts, including a battlefield diorama that they all did amazing jobs on. In August, the Texas Gypsies was the entertainment at the 15th Annual Heritage Dinner and played music from the 20s. They were amazing. They're a group from over in Dallas, so if you haven't heard them, you definitely should. We also held our second gun show of the year in August and had our Muncie at the Museum event in September. For our movie nights, we showed Mark of the Lash, starring Lash LaRue, and Falcon in Mexico, starring Tom Conway. The museum also did a podcast with Texas Time Capsule. A new temporary exhibit was installed of Larry Winter's collection of antique children's books. Some of them you might recognize from when y'all were little, including like the Rover Boys, Tarzan series, Tom Swift, Red Ryder, Doc Savage, and Cherry Ames. That's about it for this quarter. If y'all have any questions, I'd be glad to answer, and thank you very much.
Any questions? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Susan. Action item 3, a presentation on the tax abatement application of BT Cunningham Storage. I believe Greg Maxim is supposed to be here.
If you all will bear with me 1 second, I'm just going to put up a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. Are you Brandon?
No, I'm George Goodow.
Oh, okay.
This is George with Q-Cells North America.
Okay.
The developer for the project. I'm Greg Maxson.
Okay.
Brandon couldn't make it.
Well, I knew Miranda didn't come, and I didn't know if he changed his plans and showed up or what.
Yeah, that's, I'm stepping in for him. That's the official application.
Steve, could you tell Brandon we need them?
Jessica's doing it. We can tell a little bit about yourself while we're waiting on that, if you don't mind.
You want to go? Yeah. Really quick, and I'll tag you in. Okay. Good morning. Just wanted to start off by thanking Judge Stovall and Commissioners for giving me the opportunity to present today. I'm representing Q-Cells, the owner of BT Cunningham Storage, and the developer of what we're calling Sputnik Storage Project. It was formerly known as Cunningham Storage, so apologies for the confusion. After I discuss, after I make some intros, talk a little bit more about Q-Cells, and go through what battery energy storage systems are, I'll speak a little bit more to the tax abatement request. I have Greg Maxson here supporting me. And just as a caveat, I'm not a battery storage expert, but we do have a very highly, we have battery storage experts on our team. They can answer very technical questions. So apologize if I can't get to some of these technical questions, but I'm more than happy to follow up and get answers for you all. But
You're back.
Did you try calling him, Jessica? So just the application that we're presenting today for a decision is a battery storage, electrical battery storage system. Its investment is between $70 and $100 million. It will require one employee to maintain that. Proposed construction on that is the end of first quarter of next year, with the system supposedly, or COD for that system, coming on in 2023. So the request here for abatement or within the application that I think y'all had copies of is 50% partnering with us on 50% for 7 years on an abatement.
Well, let me ask some questions while we're waiting to get your PowerPoint up, if you don't mind. Sure. What special benefits are y'all getting from the federal government for green energy? Are y'all getting any dollars from it?
Actually, we're not. Currently, battery storage does not qualify under the ITC.
So there's no special, I know under solar and wind, they get preferred depreciation rates.
No, sir, we do not. The battery storage projects do not benefit from the investment tax credit.
Okay. All right. What about environmental? Are there any environmental issues or?
No, sir. The battery storage, and once I get the PowerPoint up, I'll kind of go into what the battery storage containers look like. They're typically made of lithium ion. They have built-in fire suppression systems. So there's virtually no sort of risk of hazardous contamination. And as far as any sort of due diligence and development work, we've done environmental studies, phase 1 ESAs, all on the land prior to construction.
Are y'all subleasing this from the solar farm?
Excuse me?
Are y'all subleasing this property from the solar farm or adjacent property? And that's where y'all are going adjacent to or close by the solar farm proposed in Wheeling?
No, sir. This is a standalone storage project.
Okay.
Adjacent to a Rayburn owned substation.
Your Honor, they're right there, but it's on 3508, and to my knowledge, it looks like they're putting it in just west, right across the road from Rayburn Electric. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, but also to the east of where you're putting this, they have partial, equipment there also, or, my question is this, there's a low-lying area right there beside that, in which they've done drainage and stuff like that. Have y'all done any drainage study in reference? I understand that y'all are leasing this property, but have y'all done any drainage studies in reference to that property? Because it all comes from the west going to the east in reference to that. Also, this is to my knowledge, I haven't seen that yet, but I believe this is going to be equal to the one that is on the same agenda in reference to 3602. Is there some type of a berm that y'all have to put up around this existing situation and to protect if there is a leak or anything, or could you address anything like that? Because I don't know.
Sure. We have not started development engineering related items. What we have done so far is wetland delineation work on the property, but we intend on doing hydrological studies, geotechnical studies, in various development engineering work. So we're not at that stage just yet, but we plan on kicking that work off soon.
Okay, to my knowledge, if I'm not mistaken, this might be the second one that this county has addressed in reference to this. We do have our solar powers, but this is a battery storage type aspect. I don't believe we have any more beside these two, actually, that are being discussed today. My question is, what is your nearest one in reference to Hunt County that y'all have had, and what experiences have you had in reference to the past?
In terms of standalone energy storage,
Yes.
we're in the process of adding a standalone battery storage to a solar project not too far from here. I believe it's in Fannin County for a Coniglio solar project. Besides that, our development shop is, to be perfectly honest, fairly new, but we have a EPC team that has essentially developed over 1.2 gigawatts of energy. It's actually ranked number 10 on the list. So although our development team is fairly new, it consists of experts from I like to refer to it as an all-star team of energy storage, PV developers.
In Texas, in the state of Texas, how many of y'all, what is the oldest one, or have you, what is the oldest one in the state that you?
We don't currently have a standalone storage project in Texas.
So there's really nothing. Do you have one in any other state?
No, sir, we do not. We are adding storage to our Coniglio solar project.
So really,
In Fannin.
we did not have any statistics or anything like this about the safety that has taken place with one of them, because this is evidently possibly new technology.
We do have statistics. We're working with our procurement team is procuring batteries that are safe. Q-cells take safety very seriously, so.
My question is this, and I understand that this is out in the very rural area out there. With the knowledge that you have, would you put one of these systems right next to a platted subdivision?
With the proper setbacks.
What are the
Yes, sir.
proper setbacks?
Typically 250 feet away from a residence. And of course, depending on zoning, that varies.
I understand these make quite a bit of noise.
Actually, I have a slide that addresses that.
Okay.
And it
I think
looks
they
like
got
we're
you up,
so
if you wanna.
If you mind if I jump.
While he's bringing this up, may I ask you one more question? In actuality, y'all getting a permit as far as from the state or anything like that? Are y'all required besides getting the person that owns the land, are you required to go out and make public meetings in reference or have hearings where the public can come in and talk about it?
Yes, we frequently have public town hall meetings.
Okay, have y'all had one on this?
We have not.
Good enough, thank you.
And it looks like I'm up and running right now. Just a little bit about Q-cells, just touching on a few high points here. I've already mentioned we're a solar and energy storage developer. We're backed by Hanwha Group. We've deployed 1.2 gigawatts solar, and we currently have a 2 gigawatt pipeline solar and storage. A little bit about me, 6 years in renewable development. Prior to that, 6 years working as a landman. So it's good to be back in Texas. A little bit about Q-cells. I've already touched on quite a bit of this already. We're headquartered in Irvine, California. We're actually a vertically integrated company, meaning that we have an in-house development team. We have an in-house engineer, procurement, and construction team, EPC team. And in fact, we're also a module manufacturer. We have a module manufacturing factory out in Dalton, Georgia. And one thing that we're proud of, we recently ranked number 9 top EPC providers in the U.S. And just another point is that we are our strong bankability. We're backed by our parent company, the Hanwha Group. Here's a little bit about our parent company. It's a multifaceted conglomerate with over $197 billion worth of assets. And part of Hanwha Q-Cells' strategy is to develop greenfield projects or acquire projects that are already under development and continue the process. From there, we build and/or operate and maintain, and then the plan is to hold as an IPP, which is an independent power producer, or sell the asset. This is our current track record, which the EPC and development team has deployed. As I previously mentioned, we've deployed over 1.2 gigawatts PV plants, and we currently hold 4.7 gigawatt pipeline. Here's an example of our track record in Texas. Again, this is for PV plants. We have the Coniglio Solar Project that most recently came online. Out in Fannin County, we have the Rippey. Out in Cook County, and I believe that came online in 2020. Keelam, that came online in 2020, and a Midway project out in Pecos County. Then I wanted to kind of go into how battery energy storage systems can help. Essentially, they look like shipping containers in our utility scale reservoirs for energy. So they enable the system operators like ERCOT or utilities like Rayburn to store energy for later use. And here I just wanted to highlight a few key functions. Consistency. When using battery energy storage, energy providers can store energy to distribute later. Grid services, they can provide voltage control, frequency regulation, and reserve capacity to the grid during critical energy need events. And they also provide peak shaving, which can lower energy costs by augmenting energy supply during peak demand times. And last, and certainly not least, and I'm not sure to what extent Hunt County was affected by the winter storm last year, but they can serve as an emergency backup. They serve as a they serve as a generator to keep the grid running or assist with getting it online faster in the case of a major outage. So what does a battery storage project look like, or system look like? They have a few different appearances, but typically they look like shipping containers. They're smaller in shape, and they can be one story or multiple levels. And then here's kind of the inside of a shipping container. You'll notice to the left are battery racks, you have a fire suppression system, and then you have the controls. And this is kind of describes the makeup of those racks. You have lithium-ion cells. Those are combined into modules, and the modules are combined into the racks. Now, touching on safety, and I know I mentioned this earlier, Q-Cells does prioritize safety, and here are a couple examples of how we're doing that. We plan on complying with the National Fire Protection Association standards that address the energy storage systems. We plan on working with the local fire department to ensure all systems have appropriate safety features, and we plan on reviewing each supplier's specifications in detail to ensure that each system has the ability to detect any off-gassing, which can be a precursor for thermal runaway. And then to the right, kind of highlight some of the key features or the safety features that our battery storage system will contain. It'll have the physical containment, metal containers housing the equipment. It'll have a 24/7 automated fire detection and extinguishing capabilities, and it'll have suppression systems, which will have a cooling, ventilation, and fire suppression built in. I wanted to introduce our Sputnik storage project. The capacity of this project, let me back up here. It's located south of Greenville. It is a 190 megawatt project, 380 megawatt hours, and located across the street, across County Road 3508 from the Wallace substation. That's a Rayburn-owned substation. The battery type is a 2-hour. Our notice to proceed, here's a little bit about our timeline here. Notice to proceed, we're looking at December 2021, construction in February, and completed in November, and a commercial operation date in December of next year. Going back here, I just also wanted to touch on this is, it's a 15-acre site, and I believe the footprint will be anywhere between 10 to 15 acres, utilizing 10 to 15 acres out of that 15-acre site. And here's kind of a more detailed construction timeline. We currently have an interconnection agreement, or we're currently in negotiation for an interconnection agreement with Rayburn. We've completed all the full interconnection studies with ERCOT and Rayburn. On the land side of things, the development side of things, we plan on closing out any sort of open development items by the end of this year, and we are in the process of procuring and designing the project. And then we plan on starting construction the beginning of the year with site mobilization sometime during the summer, and ending with commercial operation date in December 2022. And a little bit about the location and design. As I previously mentioned, it's adjacent to the Rayburn Electric Co-op. It's utilizing vacant native pasture. And as I touched on earlier, it's a containerized battery storage system. Virtually all trees were left standing to screen the project. And the design incorporates flexibility. It incorporates changes based on the interconnection study feedback and equipment vendor modifications. And this touches on your concern, your question earlier, Judge, sound impacts from the battery storage project. This kind of gives you an example of what noise range the battery storage systems operate in. So typically they operate in the 60 to 80 dB range, and that's when standing within 3 feet. However, as you kind of move further out, of course, the noise gets less and less. And we've identified any homes over 600 feet, from the project location. I think the decibel chart there is really helpful to kind of understand where the some examples of what that dB range looks like in terms of common noises. Commercial highlights. This is one of the reasons why we sort of targeted this area and acquired the project. The growth of renewables in ERCOT, coupled with retirements and increasing load, generates significant congestion and price volatility. And that's an attractive characteristics for energy storage. This particular project is positioned in the ERCOT North Zone region with price volatility due to the growing penetration of renewables. The 2-hour battery duration also allows for additional opportunities to increase revenues compared to the 1-hour duration. And this particular project was a attractively sized energy storage project with a near-term COD prior to large volumes of competing storage projects being commissioned. And these are some of the benefits to the community. I think Greg may have touched on these earlier. We have the tax revenue, and we have local impact, which is a minimal impact to municipal services, and increased local electric grid reliability. Jobs, and I know Greg touched on this earlier, 1 permanent job. We're looking at 80 to 100 construction jobs during the 12-month construction period. And that's the end of my presentation.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, we have 3 different areas. I believe one is, well, what you're calling the Wallace Also, we have Signal Road, Signal Ranch aspect, also the one up in Lone Oak, correct? Okay, you're going to be putting one of these storage projects at each place. Is that correct, or is that going to be funneled to this?
No, this project will only be at the Wallace substation.
Okay, well, the other aspect of it, is it going to be that's made elsewhere? Is it going to be funneled into this storage deal, or how's it going to be connected?
Are you asking where we're going to be pulling the power from?
Yes.
Well, the power will be pulled from the grid, so it'll be pulling from various points of interconnection or substations in the area.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. This will be also pulling from the other.
Yes, sir,
Am I correct?
from the surrounding areas. And we've kicked off the interconnection studies, and they show no impact.
What's the life of this project?
25 to 30 years.
25 to 30 years?
Yes, sir.
Tell me this, at the end of that 25 to 30 years, or if something happens, are y'all bonded in reference to a cleanup?
I believe that's an option. Yes, there are recycling capabilities, or there is, we would decommission the project at that point.
Well, during that decommissioning aspect of it, is the money
Yes,
will be
that's-
guaranteed to clean the whole place?
Yes, sir, that's correct. That we will have money set aside.
Any other questions? All right, Daniel, you'll need to get with them on the agreement. We'll talk about it more, probably in executive session, see how we want to proceed.
Yeah, I mean, it takes 60 days to do all that paperwork and the notices, everything minimum. We had to adopt a reinvestment zone and then do the normal paperwork we do for other tax payments.
What if we do a pilot? Is it change the time frame? Same rules?
I don't know if the pilot is available for this type of project in Texas. We'll have to look at that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll get you all my information. I don't know, I did the civil stuff for the county.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so we're asking for the acceptance of the application today.
Well, we hadn't had a chance to review it. Our attorneys have to review it first. We're not, we're just looking at a presentation. First time we've seen you, we're not approving this kind of a deal in one 15-minute presentation. You'll need to check, Daniel, y'all need to get together and make sure what's going on. Might check with Fannin County and see what Fannin County did.
Sure.
You know the attorney over there?
I think I work for the district attorney's office.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Did y'all have a tax maintenance like the one you were looking for?
Yes, sir.
In Fannin County?
Yeah, and I believe we also had Chapter 313.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get you my information.
This does not qualify for 313.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You bet. All right. I'm gonna skip right. Anybody here from the fire department? Which one are you? You with?
I'm with Quinlan.
Quinlan? All right, we're gonna skip down to number 12, the Hunt County Fire Protection Agreement Contract for Quinlan Volunteer Fire Department. Daniel?
Yes, and there's some.
I'm gonna try to do just this one and move on so we can get to executive session. We got people here that we need to get taken care of.
Yes, and we may need to discuss these contracts in executive session if you have any questions. I sent you an email this morning with one sentence that needs to be added to the end, and then some language to use in a motion for approving these contracts. The language is would be added to the very end. It just says, Hunt County represents that it will pay all charges incurred pursuant to this contract with current revenues by the county, and each party represents that the agreement's been approved by the governing board of that party. My understanding is that's already happened. These are basically just additional statements that the new state law that came out in 2013, since we adopted the last one, requires that to be in there for this type of interlocal agreement. And so basically any motion, I'm not sure if anybody had I know some of you printed that off. The motion would need to say, basically, I move that we approve the fire protection agreement between Hunt County and whichever party, and that it be approved with the new current revenue and approval language with payments to start in November 2021. I put the last part in there with the payments so that there's no delay in case it takes a couple of days to get the slightly revised version of that back. Wouldn't be any delay in them getting the increased $4,800 payment in next week when those payments start. Richard and David, I know, have been doing the certification process, and they can talk to you about those individually or all at once. They're here to talk about it.
Okay. Richard, can you address this one, just this one for us, please? I noticed there, have you not done an inspection yet? My sheet doesn't show it's approved or disapproved.
Which one, Judge?
For Quinlan?
Yes, we did an inspection. I left that one blank until I could speak with the commissioner.
Okay.
That's the only one I didn't mark. Quinlan,
You need to come up to the mic, Richard, I'm sorry, so we can get it on record, and the public can hear you out on the web. You want to be a celebrity on the web, don't you?
We did certification inspections on all the named fire departments except the 2 that are paid fire departments, which we have inspection reports from the state of Texas, from the Texas Commission on Fire Protection. On the Quinlan Fire Department that you asked me about, we did do the inspection. As far as the equipment, went out and talked to them, the training and everything, just like we did everything. I did not mark that one because Commissioner Martin had mentioned the 75% calls being made, which was what the hospital has discussed. In other words, not in their contract, but everybody kind of looks at a 75%. And Quinlan had, according to the records furnished to us by EMR, had missed about 39% of their calls.
So it makes them 61?
Right. 60 and a fraction. It was 39 and a fraction, so call it 61% of their calls answered.
Do they have enough staff and all their equipment and all was passed?
The equipment was fine. The questions we asked as far as training and things like that, I'm guessing, and I think that there's some people here from Quinlan today, that the amount of missed calls has to do with staffing. That's the only thing it could be when we talk with other fire departments. As y'all know, when we went through a 3-month investigation of these, I mentioned to you that Wolf City had 0 missed calls. Cache had 2, and so it goes down from there. But we had no one falling under the 75% except for Quinlan VFD.
Okay.
Let me bring up a discussion since we've, I found this out in actuality, as far as numbers of calls, and I'd have to look it up. In actuality, Quinlan made more calls than anybody overall.
Okay? David
Am I
Alexander
correct?
has all those records if
Yeah.
you need.
The contract that we have with these fire departments have to do with fire.
Correct. What's what the
Not-
county
not
contracts
health
for.
and all that, not the health aspect like MHMR, basically, as far as the ambulance and stuff like this. It was brought up to my attention that I don't know what percent of overall, but from my understanding, you came across that they had a percentage of non-participation, not going to it, or call-outs, that was low. And so this Commissioner's Court, in my opinion, you're having a problem whether you approve or disapprove because you want us to bring this to your attention in reference to whether we need to or not. Am I correct?
That is correct. I want, in other words, it's ultimate decision of the Commissioners Court, and I wanted to let y'all know our findings.
But I would like to bring up, and I have in the past, that there was more calls made. Now, how they were health or whatever, I don't know, and neither do you. In fact, MHMR had a problem, AMR rather, had a problem in reference to finding it out. They couldn't even give me the statistics. I've heard different statistics in reference to what call was and what call wasn't, as far as, we have a contract with the fire departments in reference to responding to fires. So, I believe y'all know my feelings on this as far as, if they've got all the equipment and all this, I believe it was brought up as far as the overall response. So that would be the Commissioner's Court to decide whether that's acceptable or not. Is it acceptable to you?
I guess I don't understand the question.
Is it acceptable to you that they make more calls than everybody else, but on the other hand, they did not make all the calls? They have a high percentage of overall calls.
Okay.
Y'all are bringing this before this Commissioner's Court, and it would be up to the decision of the fire marshal to find out whether they're approved or whether they met our qualifications and specifications. And you're asking for input.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Okay. 39% missed calls is a high average, and it was the highest in the county. And it was the only department that didn't make the 75% quota, if you want to call it that. And we do have some figures during that 90-day period on the number of calls and the type of calls, if you're interested in that.
Do you think that we ought to enter into this in reference to the response and the statistics in reference to not making the calls and turning them down? You're the fire marshal.
Okay.
And I understand this. You've been put in a position, you've been put in a position in reference to this, and maybe I need to listen to find out what the other commissioners and the judge think about it. But I will quote this, and I've said it I don't know how many times, they did make more calls, the most in the county as far as fire departments.
Is that true, David?
David, you want to bring those figures up here?
That's true. They even made more than cash.
I didn't try to commit all these different departments to
No,
memory.
I understand.
That's the reason we brought the paperwork.
From June through August, June through August, they had 596 calls dispatched to them, and that is the most. Cash was the second, with 400.
That's dispatched.
Dispatched.
No, I'm talking about going to those calls. Who made the most calls? Quinlan.
Well, I mean, when you subtract 207 from 596, that's
289.
289. Cash had 400, and they only missed 5, so they went to
395
395.
calls.
So, yeah.
And how many Quinlan respond to?
596 minus 203.
389.
389.
I'm reiterating that. I'm saying that they responded to more calls than any of the other departments. Is that correct?
No.
Not quite.
Well, Philip, I think the question is, if we're making a requirement that they have to respond to 75% of the calls, and they didn't do it, even though they responded more than anybody else, they're still not meeting our guidelines as we set it up to enter into contract with them.
Well, that's what.
So if
that's
they're
what-
only responding to 61%, regardless if they've made the most of them, if they're not getting them all, like they're contracting with us to do, and they're short of people, how do we contract with them right now?
That's why I want y'all's input.
Well, that's my input. I'm saying, if they don't have enough staff, and that's the reason they're not making all their runs, I mean, Cash had how many calls to them?
Cash had 400 during that 3 months, and they responded to all of those except for 5.
Right. And they had 500, and they missed 200 and something of them. Nearly 300 of them, wasn't it, they missed?
I had statistics, I do not have these with me, but basically, if I'm not mistaken, they made 6 more calls more than Cash responding. I'm talking about AMR, and I'm talking about fire and all that. And I got these statistics, basically, through y'all. Y'all should have.
Well, this is from AMR, and this is what I shipped y'all, so you have the same ones that I have.
I don't have it with me, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Commissioners, y'all got any other comments?
Does it make any difference, I'm just curious, does it make any difference whether it's a fire call or a health call, issue, or, ambulance? Does that make a difference in the amount of calls? I don't know.
Technically, our contract with them is to answer fire calls.
It's just fire calls, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So,
And the hospital technically is for ambulance emergency calls.
and these calls are AMR for everything, medical and fires.
What are the fire calls percentage just in Quinlan? What, do you have that? I mean,
As far as response to that,
Yes.
no, sir, I don't. That report that came into us yesterday from Steve Bowen, he broke it down a little bit on how many was medical, how many was fire, things of that, and I had passed that on to you.
I wanted to say this, AMR does the dispatching for all the fire calls and the medical calls. And their computer system just puts it as calls.
okay.
Okay. So when we get the information from the dispatch, and the county contracts with AMR to dispatch the fire calls, then we get total number of calls. And the only way that we can reach back is in the departments. Each month will send in what we call their overage calls, and then they list the fire calls. In other words, we depend upon the individual department to tell us how many fire calls.
Yesterday, when I sent that report to y'all, and I don't know if you got a chance to, Mr. Bowen referenced that there was an extremely large amount of calls at one location that could glitch it. I did go to AMR and ask them for a report, and I sent it to y'all. I don't know if you saw it, but yeah, there's one location that is just, for whatever reason, like
One house had
one house,
71 calls, one
40
address.
In September, one house is 45 calls, medical calls.
For 1 month.
Oh, wow.
The month before that was 74. This month is 42 already, mainly for breathing problems and things of that nature. So
May I
That's
ask
just
you-
medical calls.
Yeah.
that could skew the numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
That's, okay.
Anyone else have a question, Commissioner Hutchins?
I share your concern that if there are not enough people to respond, then the response rate's not going to improve with our funding. And I was just looking through this packet from the certifications in other departments, and I see, 5 in one department is a very low number. I see 16, 20, 22, 23, 19, 16, much higher numbers. And so that's not a funding problem that I can tell. I'd certainly be open to hearing how it is related to funding if there's just not adequate personnel to respond to calls. But I don't think putting the money toward it is going to solve that right now. The numbers have to increase.
Well, and Philip, you and I worked on this new contract, and we put in there about the percentage of calls to make and not make. They're obviously not making it, so I don't see how we can go into a new contract with them if they're not following the guidelines we put forth. And I agree with what you just said, Mark. I don't think funding is going to solve this problem. So I don't see why giving them more money or going into a contract is going to do any good. I think until they get the numbers back up, that we don't enter into a contract with them right now.
Anybody else? Well, for those who are here from Quinlan, we need y'all. We need y'all to get the staff put together so we can, can fund y'all and get you the necessary funding that we can provide you. But we got to get a better response and all for our taxpayer money. Yes, ma'am, come forward.
My name is Angie Murdahl, and I actually serve as the treasurer for the Quinlan Volunteer Fire Department. I've been doing it since 2005. I've been on the department, I've been the treasurer since 2007, something like that. So that's why I attended the meeting today. And I do have a statement, if I can actually make that statement.
Sure.
That was prepared. I prefer to read it.
That's fine.
Because I know this is very important. It's near and dear to our hearts. It's actually, and I'm sorry, I'm just really emotional about this right here. Hold on, let me get to it. Okay, here it goes. From May through August, our department was faced with some hard circumstances resulting in a decrease in coverage. We had 5 members leave in the time span of a month and a half, one of which being our secretary. Our assistant chief also stepped down at that time frame due to lack of time she was able to devote to the station. Because she is in the hospital, she works for the hospital care team, and she was dealing with COVID. Since then, she's dropped to a reserve member, and her husband has also dropped to an auxiliary member for us due to a recent cancer diagnosis. This left the members that we had struggling to keep up with the demand of station time, overtime working as their first responders due to COVID and going into the school. As of right now, we have taken measures. We really started back in September when we were put on notice by the hospital district. To maintain and increase our membership, we do online job postings. We started that in June, putting an online Facebook post for volunteers. We took out an advertisement in the Van Zandt County and Quinlan newspapers. We remodeled our station as well. And part of the remodel is that station's been there since 1965, and we've never had a shower until this year, and we didn't have any place where people can come up and stay and provide 24-hour coverage. We have increased our coverage drastically starting in September. In the past month alone, membership has scheduled over 1,203 hours of coverage. We've covered our stations, the football games, and assisted members with other department calls as well. We try to have multiple members on duty at a time. Over the past few months, we've had a lot of certified members go above and beyond to help and increase our capabilities. We have one that's in the fire program. We have 1 nurse, 1 paramedic, 7 EMTs, 1 EMR. With our current membership, including reserve, that makes our department 70% over certified for our certification. We are the only advanced life support system department in the south part of the county. We do recognize as a department that our numbers over the summer months were very low. Just like it's been talked about, we do have some medical calls, one lady in particular that actually puts a big toll on our department. We have actually continued with our scheduling. The chief reaches out. Since September, she personally reaches out and gets everyone scheduled for the week in addition to make all these coverage. On average, we're running around 300 man-hours a week trying to get that station covered, and we've made this commitment since September. So I'm asking for consideration. If you want to put us on probation, we'll be even willing to do probation to make the call volumes, because you will see a different number in October. at the end of October.
Okay.
Questions?
Thank you.
All right.
Any questions? Thank
How
you.
many-
And Maurice, are we currently still paying them under the old contract?
Yes, we're still paying under the
Okay.
old contract.
Well, it'd be, you can comment in a minute, Philip, but I think it'd be my recommendation that we continue under the current contract and do it like a probation period for another 30 days or 60 days and let them get their numbers up, let them try to get more volunteers, and, because we need them out there working. And
In
you
the
know, I
past
don't-
month, we've had 4 new volunteers.
And they
we
wouldn't
met
be
them
out
one
of-
on
they wouldn't have to be-
Saturday, and we do our trainings on Wednesdays now, so.
They wouldn't be out of the agreement of a current contract, because we don't have any stipulation in there. So it'd be my advice, let's just table this for now, or strike it for now, and then take it back up in a month from now. And when they get it done, then maybe later on, y'all get it all going. We still got the money. We might come back and reimburse them if they get up and running and doing a good job. We still have the money there that we might fund to them at a later date.
So your recommendation reference, continue paying them.
Under
as
the
we
current
are
contract,
Right
we-
now, current contract, not the new one, the 2,400. For 1 month and then go back and see what's going on?
Well, we can do it on let's go at least 60 days. If they get it ready in 30 days, they can come back. But let's give them 60 days before we have to, look at it again, unless y'all get lucky and get a whole bunch of new volunteers. And you get, you
Deal with our call volume.
I understand.
I pray about it, let me tell you, I do.
I'm
pray
hopeful,
about it.
'cause we-
I am hopeful as well. Every day I come in there's someone new. And just so you know, I do keep all the money separate. So the money from the Commissioners Court goes into one account. It's not touched for any utilities or anything. I have 3 separate accounts I maintain for this fire department.
Okay.
You're
Well,
on-
I think what we did when we started this, didn't we, set it to where we were gonna terminate those other contracts January 1st?
January
Yes.
1st.
So that gives you 60 days, and we can relook at it in December. And if you get it there quicker, then we'll look at it, and good luck. 'Cause
Yeah, we even
like I said,
had
we
Steve
need
Bowman
y'all.
step back up as Assistant Chief to help us, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank
Uh,
you, thank you
you
for your
bet.
time.
Mr. Hill, besides that, in reference to that, did they qualify in reference to the equipment and everything else as far as the inspection?
The only question with the Quinlan VFD was the number of calls made or accepted, in other words. It was just the percentage of calls. As far as the equipment, yes, everything was fine.
Good enough, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Richard. All right, let's see, moving on. Is anybody here for the, let's see. Brian, help me out. Which one's got, we got a public hearing and a specific use permit? Is that what we have? Are those people here?
Yeah, public hearing for number 21, these guys, and then we have a public hearing for number 22 as well.
And they're here? Everybody's here?
I don't know if 22's here.
If 22's not here, then we'll do it after executive session. We need to try to get to there. Okay, number 20, we'll skip to 21.
Excuse me, Judge, can we do number 6? Because I've had Diane here through the whole meeting in case.
Oh,
of
I'm
any
sorry.
questions.
Okay.
Is that okay? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. I was just trying to take care of everybody that was here. Action item number 6, the approval of pay of $15,750 to Tyler Technology for financial configuration of Odyssey, consolidating civil fees and fee costs for all courts as required by Senate Bill 41 to be paid from account number 10-611-3105-2190, professional services. A professional service agreement and statement of work is attached. So my understanding is that the state changed the law on how y'all have to account for something, and we have to change the software to
Yes, sir.
accommodate
The
that.
Senate Bill 41 consolidated the fees, goes in effect January 1. Stacy, myself, the district clerk, the county clerk, the new county clerk, we met in July to set up the new accounts, but Odyssey has to do their thing also. And I have Diane here to correct me if I say anything wrong.
Okay.
But there is going to be webinars coming up this next week or two that they'll all be watching. It's just that we don't have the expertise to make sure that it's done right. And the funds that we're going to pay it out of, we have a budget amendment later on the agenda that's coming out of contingency to go into that fund we're going to pay it out of.
Okay. Any questions, Commissioners? If not, I entertain a motion of approval.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Diane. Sorry I missed that. Action item number 21 is the specific use permit for a battery energy storage facility proposed for a 2-acre site out of a 236-acre tract located in C2 Commercial District or on County Road 3602. So Commissioners, I think this was voted on and approved by the Tawakoni P&Z, but there's a change of use for, because of the zoning. And introduce yourself and.
Thank you, Judge Stovall. Thank you, Commissioners Court. My name is Steve Kiesling. I'm here on behalf of PearlX. This is my partner here, Scott Barnett. We're here today to request a special use permit under the Lake Tawakoni Planning Ordinance. We've already talked somewhat today in this venue about battery storage, so I'll introduce you to the project and go into some of the details, the needs, of course, the impacts. But if any of that's redundant or you'd like to move forward, please jump in with that comment, and please jump in with any questions as we go along here. Thank you. So I'd like to start off today with talking about what's happening in Texas, specifically with the energy challenges. Texas is a unique place. There are a lot of coal, natural gas, and nuclear power facilities that are going offline right now, and those facilities happen to be located more in the eastern part of the state. And at the same time, we have more and more power generation coming on in the west part of the state and the south part of the state. Primarily wind and solar. To compound that or make it a little bit more complicated, Texas runs its own electricity grid, meaning that this is an island, so all the needs for electricity need to be satisfied right here. We can't pull from Oklahoma, can't pull from Louisiana, New Mexico. This is an independent island as far as electricity is concerned. With those new forms of power coming on, they're intermittent. When the sun shines, the solar works. When the wind blows, the wind works, but they don't work all the time. And that creates a big need for a staging place for energy to resolve some of those problems. Electricity works in real time, so every time you have a need on the grid, it needs to be satisfied somewhere else. That doesn't work so well if your stable generation sources are going offline and you have new ones coming online, but they're intermittent. To further compound that problem, a lot of the population is growing by all the major metropolitan cities, which tend to be in the east and central. And all of this comes to the practical problem, which is we have a supply and demand imbalance that needs to be solved somehow. Earlier this year, we had a big event, big freeze, which you all were witness to and maybe even suffered from, which highlights the impact of having an unstable grid that doesn't have enough resources or resiliency on it, which is why we're here today to present a solution, help relieve that. What we propose to do is create a battery energy storage facility to store some of this energy locally where it's available for use, that's not subject to some of those transmission and congestion and intermittency problems that I mentioned earlier. This technology is established and well known. It's lithium-ion technology. We'll get into some of the safety elements later, but everyone's got a phone in their pocket that's running on this technology. You may have a hybrid card that has this technology, and there are many electric vehicles out there that are running on this technology right now. So it's been well used over 30 years, and this is simply a refactoring of the shape and format into something that's usable for the grid. The way this works, comes in on battery containers. We saw earlier, it sits in racks. There's power conditioning systems that monitor and control it. And they're here to regulate and stabilize the grid. There's no emissions that come out of these facilities. They're largely recyclable and reusable, which is another benefit of this particular solution. Now, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our group. PearlX is a relatively new company, though myself and the rest of the management team are not new to renewables or storage at all. Me personally, I've been doing solar development for the last 10 years. I've done projects in California, Illinois, Maine, and New York. And the rest of our management team comes from publicly traded organizations, STEM and ORMAT Renewables, that have a focus on battery energy storage. And the head of our company, his last boss was Jigar Shah, who's the current head of the U.S. Department of Energy. PearlX in particular, we're focusing on the distribution level. We have a plan to open up 5 of these energy storage facilities across the state. We're trying to solve the problem nearby where the population is. So you can see most of our target sites are near the major metropolitan areas, and all of our facilities will be focusing on resiliency and stability and providing energy when it's needed. Now I'd like to go into the project and its particular details. This facility we're proposing to put nearby the town of Quinlan, right off 3602 and Quinlan Parkway, or 276. It's in the corner there, just on the east side of town. It's Hunt County, parcel ID 32511. This is the schematic and layout. We're proposing to build this project in 2 phases. The first, 5 battery containers, and the second, 10 battery containers coming shortly thereafter. The approximate footprint of the project is 2 acres, and that's sitting on a 236-acre parcel, and that's set back 50 feet from the property line. This is what it's going to look like. They all look relatively the same. It's a shipping container, so I don't know if there's too much that we can really show you beyond that, but it's power equipment, and there's no mistake about it. There will be security fencing around it. On this site in particular, there will be visual screening in the form of slatted fence. I'd like to go into some of the project impacts now. I already told you earlier, these are self-contained batteries. This is going to be an unmanned facility. There's no utilities that we're bringing in other than electricity. In terms of pollution and spill risk, the batteries themselves are composed of solid elements. The only thing that's liquid in there is an electrolyte. It is flammable, but everything is sealed, and the primary risk here is fire. There's no forklift that's going to drop a barrel of some toxic chemical or material. Everything's sealed and will stay that way for the duration of the project. Visually, this is screened in. All lighting is faced inward and downward. The sound, the loudest equipment on the site are the air conditioners to keep the batteries cool. For our particular slotted implementation, the noise level is around 75 decibels or less at its max. And for reference here, we have a chart to help calibrate your impression of how loud that will be. We're approximately 450 feet from the nearest residence on the project boundary, and there's a well-known effect that as you increase the distance away from the project, the sound decreases as well, so we don't foresee any appreciable sound impact to neighboring properties. On the fire side, I mentioned earlier that's the primary concern for any facility of this type. There's multiple layers. First starts with good design. So this is NFPA 855, large-scale fire testing with UL 9540. There's multiple systems on site. The system is monitored 24/7 by a remote operations team, which helps detect heat increases that are unusual. And if that's the case, they can shut off the site remotely. And in addition to that, there's physical protection systems, smoke detection, and fire suppression as well. In addition to that, if you look around the property here. This is currently being used as farmland. There is no nearby highly flammable material at risk. In terms of traffic, there's no on-site staff. There will be a construction period to get it up and running, but the only real activity here is going to be operations. Maintenance for the operation. I got ahead of myself talking about some of the safety procedures, but they're here for your reference. And in terms of project benefits, year one estimated tax revenue, we're looking at $91,000 that would go to the following jurisdictions for tax, and approximately $1.8 million over a 20-year period. One thing I want to note about on the tax revenue side, this is a facility that will bring in revenue and will require very little in terms of public resources to maintain or involve in the community. So this is truly an asset in that regard, in that it brings a lot to the community, not only in terms of tax revenue, but power resiliency.
And y'all not going to be asking for abatements?
I'm sorry?
You're not going to ask for abatements?
Well, you got to let me build it first. That's currently not in contemplation. And I'd like to wrap up with a summary of the application. We're applying for a special use permit. The current zoning classification is C2 commercial under the Lake Tawakoni planning ordinance. I'm asking today for an approval for a 10 megawatt, 30 megawatt hour battery energy storage facility. The proposed land use is under electrical power plant, which would require a special use permit under the zoning ordinances. I'd like to thank you for your time. We could jump in with any questions.
Yeah, is this going to be expandable, or is it going to all consist in reference to these 2 acres?
This is it right here. I mentioned that we'd be building this out in 2 phases, but this facility is standalone and has there's no request for expansion.
The footprint won't change. It will encompass the final size. Again, you just get more batteries brought into it.
This is under lease. Might need to bring this up. This property that y'all are putting on, y'all don't own it, am I correct, or y'all leasing it?
That's correct. We will be leasing this property under a long-term lease.
Okay, here's why I'm bringing this up, Judge, in reference to where to put this thing as far as that's main artery, that 3602. They'll need to back off that, they'll need to back off from the sides of that road to give us an opportunity in reference to if we rebuild that road, if this passes, that we'll have the amount of property that's needed in reference to widening that road on 3602.
What is your anticipated setback for the first building, or the first container?
For the
From the
boundary
road.
of the facility,
Yeah.
we're anticipating 50 feet back from the property line.
Okay.
Would there ever be any reason to expand? I mean, of course, growth would have something to do with it.
It will be built to the maximum that it can interconnect at distribution voltage, so it will never get any bigger.
So it never would be able to expand it at all?
It would expand in numbers of hours that it would run, and that will be accomplished probably in year 2. We'll build it originally for 10 megawatts, and it can do that for 1 hour. And in the second or third year, we'll expand that into a 2 or 3 power probably capabilities.
But to answer your question, no, it won't be expanded.
So you'd never come in and add more container batteries or anything like that?
Yeah, the holes will be left on from the very beginning because they'll be intermittent throughout the design.
Mhm.
So from the very first build, the open holes will be there waiting for the new expansion trailer to be placed into, because all the stuff will already be in place.
And I want to be clear here, our plan is to build this in 2 phases, but I think the question was beyond that, are we expanding? And the answer is no.
Yeah, larger than the 2 acres.
I just wanted to make
You're
sure.
staying within the 2 acres.
And
That's correct.
actually, it will probably be more like about 1.3, it'd be significantly under 2.
All right, anything else?
What's the longevity of this site? What are y'all thinking?
For this site in particular, well, the lifetime of these systems is 25, 30 years, approximately, but certainly no less than 20 in any scenario.
I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked them, because theirs is basically about the same. What kind of monies, or is it bonded, or is it insured in reference to all of a sudden you all decide to move out, or if something does happen?
It'd be in our contract from the very beginning that that's provided for us, and sometimes it's in a performance bond, but in one fashion or an escrow or whatever, in one fashion or another, those amounts will be demonstrated as present.
Yeah, and to answer your question, if you're thinking about what the decommissioning impacts and the scope of work here, there are quite a few valuable materials sitting in shipping containers that are easy to move, so the actual site itself doesn't have much to it. Most of the value's in something that's a high salvage value and can be moved easily, so.
I was more or less thinking of cleanup.
Yeah,
If something
foundations
happened.
and underground, that sort of thing.
Sure.
Right.
Hey, Brian, what's the Tawakoni Planning and Zoning have to say? I see the report in here, but do you have any inside information or any more input?
Tawakoni P&Z, they did make a recommendation for approval. They would like an actual survey on the ground at a marked 2 acres of property. Even though this is just a lease property, they want there to be a definite delineation of where this 2 acre site is and where it is.
So we didn't have a legal description on it for it?
A legal description or something to tie it to the ground and tie it to the boundaries of that property. So
Well, how do we approve it? We don't know where 2 acres is out of what was it, 100 and something acres?
450 feet down from the 200, or from the neighboring property. But yeah, that is the only special request that they had, was they want some sort of a definite delineation of where this 2 acre site is going to sit on the property.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'd be a condition of our approval. If we approve it, would be, we have to have some kind of legal description before it's finalized.
Yeah, surveyors are backlogged now. We've got that request in, and we're 20 working days out from having, so we couldn't have any time for this.
There's also a gentleman back here who'd like to ask questions about this.
Okay, that's fine. All right, Commissioner, any other questions?
No, thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you all.
If somebody else like to speak? Come forward and talk on the mic, please, sir. Give me your name and address, and I understand, no problem.
My name's Alan Etier. I live off of 3602, closer to Highway 34, which would be northwest of this situation. I'm just curious as to how he actually gets tied into the grid. And are there going to be great big major power lines, or is he just going to be tapping into the telephone pole lines? You know, you've seen these great old big towers out here that carry the main power lines. I'm just curious how he gets from the battery to that.
Okay.
That's all I'm asking.
You'll have, within our facility.
I need you to come up mic so it'll be on the record, please, sir. Sorry, but.
Oh, that's all right. Within the facility, there will be 6, I believe, standard height telephone poles, distribution. Same thing you see is out on the road. And once it leaves the confines of our fence, it will tie to the power line that's present at the road currently. So there's, other than just the poles that are in our place and then the tie made to the power line that already exists, that is all that's that will be required to make that connection.
Okay.
So no more overhead lines or anything like that than what's already there?
No, it's in, as far as the maintenance goes in this particular situation, the co-op wants to own and maintain the medium voltage, which will be the overhead and the underground.
I noticed a while ago you were talking about sites in Texas, or
Right.
in actuality, y'all don't have one already built and operating at this time. But I noticed that it was being built. Is that true?
Yeah, this is, in places where the power costs more, like in the east and west coast, this is not really new. In Texas, we enjoy pretty cheap electricity, so it's really just recently got to the place where the financial dynamics allow for this type of thing to exist here in Texas. So they're kind of new here. They're not new to us. We've been doing this for 14 years, 13 of it myself. And the technology isn't new. The financial dynamics lining up enough to make it profitable to do so is what's new. So that's it kind of has a flavor of being new here, but it's by no means is it.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else got any comments? Commissioners, I entertain a motion.
I so moved with you're taking a motion basically to accept the planning and zoning boards.
You can make a motion to accept it or deny it. It's up to you.
Make a motion, we accept that, the planning and zoning board's recommendation.
Along with the requirement of a legal description.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Is anyone else here on an item on the agenda? If not, Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion. Go-
Yes,
Oh,
yes, Judge. Yes.
we got people here with the plats? Okay, that's what I was asking. Is anybody, I wanted to get everybody here so that's here, not have to sit and wait for us to come out of executive session.
Number 23 is here.
Okay, number 23, the preliminary plat of Mural Creek Estates in Precinct 1. Brian, you want to?
All right. Like I said, this is a preliminary plat. We had a pre-development meeting over this preliminary plat. They decided to lose a couple of lots that they had proposed originally. They're going to look at doing a second, possibly third phase of the subdivision later, adding some new roads. Right now, what they are proposing is along existing roads. The roads do have to be upgraded. There will be some right-of-way that needs to be cleared. We have a drainage plan. Everything looks good as far as our subdivision regulations. I know that, Judge, I believe you requested having the Mark Hickman, the engineering representative, requested having net acreage where there are some easements involved on the property. I have a draft here of the final plat that does have the net acreages listed on there. As far as preliminary plats are concerned, this one's got bases covered. We'll come back with the final plat whenever we get a little bit further into the road upgrade and right-of-way clearing and all that good stuff.
Did this one have any floodplain on it? It wasn't in the flood, none of it was in the floodplain, was it?
No, all the floodplain was
all behind-
downstream.
On down, yeah.
This had some drainage, but I
Yeah,
don't
this is where
think
we
it
had a lot of
actually had
drainage
floodplain.
issues going across the road, yeah. Okay. Any questions? Commissioners? Entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion, we approve this preliminary plat?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. If there's no one else here at this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Can I
under
interrupt
item-
again? Can we pay bills first? Because
Okay,
we got people waiting, I'm afraid.
okay,
I'm sorry.
no problem. Accounts payable, approval of accounts payable.
I make a motion, we pay the bills.
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Line item.
Anything else, Bruce? Can we wait?
Well, I don't know, you can do the budget amendment and the other one later if you want to.
Okay, that's fine. All right, entertain a motion to go into executive session under items 1 and 4.
So moved.
So moved.
So moved, second.
Motion say, okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We're in executive session at 11:49. Dan, sorry. I've been trying to get there.
Well, 5 minutes or 4 hours.
Oh, goodness gracious. Wow. I had no idea we were going to do that long presentation. Sorry, man, I'm trying.
Hey, Judge, Judge.
Well, let me tell you, the last item real quick is the handgun policy.
All right, let me know when we're up, and we'll get back at the regular session.
Are okay?
Law enforcement personnel, I don't know.
Well, I consider myself law enforcement.
Yeah. I don't mind you having it, it's just the angry ex-husbands I care about. Randy wants to know if commissioners can have theirs.
That can't be like policemen and carry.
Just right there.
But you're police.
But I'm not a policeman.
We up?
No. I don't see it.